I guess now we're seeing like a sheer complexity of data, just the data itself, right? You've mentioned, we were talking earlier about the thousands of dimensions that someone has to deal with. How do you approach that, or how were people doing things before, and how does Verada actually change how you deal with that kind of complexity?
Sure. So when you're saying dimensions, maybe just to pause on what exactly you mean by that, but this word. So yeah, big data exploded and there's so much data. But when you take this, the nuance inside of it, what's happening that makes it even harder, there are two trends that happen. One is that the data itself goes to things like data lakes or object storage, goes to not to a system like a data warehouse, which is built for analytics. It goes to storage, and one reason is there's so much data coming from so many different sources and different life cycles, different bases. So it's impossible to deal with how you consume it at the time you capture it. So it's easier just to throw it somewhere. On the other hand, you've got a lot of different kinds of data that is being leveraged daily, whether it's social data or sentiment or behavioral data, IoT data. We all get tracked all the time by the big brother, and every piece of data is collected. And companies know how to leverage and use disparate sources of data to create more business value. And so it's not just about the size, it's about the complexity. Dimensions are just columns or tables, but you've got so many different properties that you collect. Like a single click on a web page can create 50 or 100 different properties to collect on that. And just that click. You want to combine that from your Salesforce data or from your support data or from other third-party sources. So, and I was a computer scientist by training. So if you take like from the computer science perspective, when you double the data, it's a linear problem. How do you double? What do you do with that?
Yeah.
But if you double its width, it's an exponential problem. It's a much harder problem.
Yeah.
Because now you've got every possible combination, and it's by power.
Yeah.
So this makes it much harder.
Yeah.
And the second trend here, actually this is the trend of data, but on the other side, you said some things are easy and like magic, but that's part of what cloud has been doing, because in the older days, when you build, say, you've got your NetEase or Teradata or Oracle, you've got your organizational data warehouse, and it's a large rack, and it is provisioned for the year, and the budget is very controlled by the IT and the size of it, and to expand it, go and wait next year. And so the business units have to work within that boundary. And they are entirely dependent on IT to be able to allocate a piece of that and fight among themselves on what to get. But the cloud completely changed that game. Part of the things that is essentially the cloud happened in cloud, that you can have essentially infinite resources, at least for a particular point in time. You can have infinite storage in a cloud data lake, or infinite compute to go and analyze that. And the power is no longer sits with the IT who provisioned your rack. It sits with users who can just use as much as they can, which moves the problem not only on how do you deal with all that data, but how do you also do that in a financially efficient way.
Yeah.
Because the cloud gave you a magic trick, which is you can have infinite amount of resources. You just spend money and throw computer problem, instance the problem, and don't think about a lot of the hard problems that comes from boundaries, and it will work. Yeah. But then it will be very expensive, and more than expensive, you get to the CFO side of the house, unpredictably expensive.
Yeah.
Because they don't find expensive, they mind expensive, they don't know. So now we're in a world, and this will come to what Verada does, when we have to deal with that complexity of data. And to deal that not in a brute force way, because there is a solution in the cloud, which is just run as many resources as you can. If you're Facebook, if you're Uber, if you're Google, that probably works for you.
Mhm.
But now, how do you go efficiently about it?